Hello everybody. If you've ever ridden on uh, an airliner has an auxiliary power unit. Whenever the pilot fires the plane out, the first thing they do is they start up the auxiliary power unit because that's what supplies the power for the rest of the airplane. I got to thinking, well, could you do that with your car's engine? And if you could, how would it work? So, this started out as me trying to come up with just a regular old four-stroke engine that fits the template that you see on a lot of my other engine designs. Okay. But it started out as one thing, and then I got to thinking, well, what if you could buy a car and you could start out with it having one cylinder, and then as funds became available, you could put in two or three or even more. Think about that for a minute. This engine here has a 4-inch bore, has a 3-inch stroke. It's 1/4 of General Motors Iron Duke engine, which is 151 cubic inches. Now, there'd be a ton of benefits to doing that, and I'll touch on a couple of them here. One, if you had an APU like this, just because it takes up this space doesn't mean it has to have a 4-inch bore and a 3-inch stroke. It could be 250 cc's and just be big enough to power the car's auxiliary systems. Like this cylinder here could be the water pump, oil pump, power steering pump, whatever. And that could be the first thing that starts up when you start up your car, just like you were flying an airliner. And then once this was warmed up and running, this engine could be used to start the rest of the car's engine. So one of the other advantages of that, let's say your car has some kind of failure, like you throw a rod on the number 2 cylinder. Well, instead of your having to replace the entire engine, you could just pull the APU off and replace that cylinder. It would also make it easier to pull an engine out of a car because you could pull it out in increments. You might be able to do it by hand instead of having a cherry picker, or you could have a smaller cherry picker. A ton of different scenarios could be imagined by that. But that's just another way that I've looked at a car's engine and thought, well, how could I make this cheaper, simpler, easier to maintain, or whatever. That's going to be it for the video. If you have any thoughts, questions, please put them in the comments. Thank you for watching.